Hello, welcome to my channel, Someone Saved My Life Tonight, devoted to the music of Elton John. I'm reviewing all of Elton John's studio albums and grading each track out of 10. My aim is to create my own top 200 or 300 tracks once I've been through all of his albums and his uncollected works. Today I'm looking at Breaking Hearts, this album here which came out in 1984. It was Elton's 18th studio album, reaching number 2 in the UK and number 20 in the United States. It followed on from Too Low for Zero, I've already reviewed that one, and preceded Ice on Fire. Elton had his usual band together for this. It was recorded in Montserrat and gives us 40 minutes of music under the leadership of producer Chris Thomas. The reception for it was mixed, to say the least. AllMusic gave it 3 stars. Rolling Stone gave it only 2.5 stars. However, Elton commented that the up-tempo songs on this album are the best things he's ever done. So does that actually stand up, that comment? Are these the best songs he's ever written, the up-tempo ones? We shall find out when we go through track by track. There were 4 singles from this, Sad Songs, Who Wears These Shoes, In Neon and Passengers. And the CD that I've got here, I haven't got the vinyl unfortunately, the CD that I've got here, disappointingly doesn't have any extra tracks on, only 10 tracks on this. So could there have been some extra tracks added as a bonus? We shall find out. Let's have a look at the booklet. Now there's the cover. Elton actually looking pretty cool on there with the hat and looking nicely dressed in the suit there, suit and tie. Inside, what have we got? Another picture from that same session there, list of the musicians. Decent bit of liner notes. I always like to see that in a booklet. Information about the singles there, some of the covers, and then we go into the lyrics. Pretty standard presentation there. Not any musicians listed for individual tracks, which could be room for improvement there, I think. Personnel on the back, and then what have we got to finish with? Nice live shot of Elton in action there. There's the band, and on the back there's a picture of Bernie. So a fairly good, helpful booklet. So here we go then with the first track, and this is Restless. This is a real rock and roll song in 4/4 time. There appears to be some sort of political angle to Bernie's lyrics here. It was written at the height of the Cold War, of course. Nikita also came out of that sort of time. And this idea of Big Brother watching. But of course it was 1984, the title of George Orwell's famous novel. Now, this is a rocker, but when we say up-tempo rocker, we're really pushing it a little bit because it's rather slow. It's rather slow and rather tame. Everybody's restless, everybody's scared, sings Elton, but they don't sound that restless, to be honest. If you think of up-tempo rockers like The Bitch's Back or Pinball Wizard, this certainly isn't up there. There's a fairly decent hook in the refrain, but I find this song a little bit plodding and rather uninteresting. And is politics really Elton's natural place? I don't know. You can decide for yourself on that. This, of course, is the 1980s, so we're going to get some synthesizer use here. This was, of course, very popular in the 1980s, and it can sound a little bit on the cheesy side when we're looking back and listening back to that time now. Unfortunately, we can't hear any piano on this track, and that's what I'm always listening for, some decent piano from Elton. All we've got is this kind of cheesy synthesizer sound going on. The whole arrangement sounds a little bit thin to me. It's a little bit music by numbers. The guitar solo is a little bit predictable. So it's a okay, but I'm not going to give it any more than 4 for an average start to the CD. So track 2, we're into brackets territory here, and it's Slow Down Georgie, She's Poison. This is rather a clunky metaphor, has things like As Nasty as the Berlin Wall in it. Again, another 1980s reference. This is somebody warning their friend about a devious woman. Now, not everybody is happy with the tone of these lyrics on this album. Certainly not Elizabeth Rosenthal. In this excellent book, actually, on Elton, his song, she considers some of these lyrics on here to be, and I'm quoting here, sexist, trite, and obnoxious. So a lot of it's seen from the male point of view. So again, I'll leave it with you to decide what you think about that. This song's got a decent verse, a clear vocal, and it's delivered quite passionately by Elton. But we have one of his key changes to the refrain, which is a little bit uneven for me. There's some exciting drumming going on, so that's certainly worth listening to. And there's some quite nice lyrics in there. An undercover lover of 100 other little fish in the sea. An undercover lover of 100 other little fish in the sea. Lots of short words in there. Quite well set. It's a fun pop song. Again, it's lacking a piano. I would compare this maybe with Kiss the Bride. That sort of, it's got that sort of feeling to it. It's okay. I would say slightly better than the opening track, and I'm going to go for fairly good on this one, 5 out of 10. Track 3 is Who Wears These Shoes? A man knows his girlfriend is being unfaithful because he's seen it through a lit window. Well, slightly concerning areas here. What's he doing looking through her windows anyway? So you have to decide for yourself whether you think that's appropriate or not. There's a good aggressive vocal being delivered by Elton on this one. It's in a minor key. It's an okay song, which I say is inoffensive, slightly corny on the backing vocals now. It has a kind of feel to it of I don't want to go on with you like that. The same kind of key, the same kind of beat to it. Although that song, I think, is far superior to this one. So again, it's okay. I'm going to give this one an average 4 out of 10. So 454, perhaps not the greatest start to this side of music, but things really pick up with track number 4, the title track, Breaking Hearts, bracket, ain't what it used to be. Breaking hearts here is used as a verb. It's the act of breaking hearts. It's not broken hearts, if you like, as an adjective. Just Elton John with the piano on this, and this is an absolutely fine track, I think. Someone is punch drunk by breakups, and they're getting this time a taste of their own medicine. This is a classy ballad with a lovely piano, a little bit echoey, possibly we could say. It's got a beautiful melody, which perhaps was too complex for a radio hit. Which is a shame in a way. The key change works really well on this one. It's a delight, in fact. Elton uses his very high voice from that. I thought on when he used it on something like One More Arrow, that was just too high, and that could have come down a register and been a better presentation. Here, it seems to work really well. Some clever lyrics from Bernie. Now I know what lonely means. It's a kind of lyric that we can all identify with. And there's a kind of feel of a 50s love song about this in a way. Why wasn't this a single? Wouldn't this have been a beautiful song which deserves a bigger audience? I would compare it slightly with The Last Song, which of course was Elton's very moving piece about somebody who was suffering from AIDS and being reunited with their father on the deathbed. Fantastic piece of writing there. So this for me is one of the highlights of this album, and I'm going to give this one 8 out of 10 as an excellent song. Now, the closing track on side 1 is Little Refrigerator. This is another high-octane rock number, starting with some interesting industrial noises. It's a real rocker. Another misogynistic character, a woman hater, a woman disliker, possibly objectifying women. Perhaps we might see this sort of attitude now a little bit outdated and perhaps not so acceptable. But let's take the music and the track on face value. The refrain is a little bit disappointing after the verse, I would say. I think it's a track that would probably work well live. But again, it's rather routine, a little bit predictable, this one. And no Elton piano in this either, which is disappointing. There's a sax solo in this, interestingly, although there's no saxophonist mentioned on the album list. Could this be the product of a synthesizer? We don't know. There are some other instruments on this album. Later on we encounter a sitar. And if these are generated by a synthesizer, that's rather disappointing because there's a lot of musicians out there who could probably do with the work to appear on these albums. So I would hope now we'd be thinking of using real musicians rather than electronic means. So a little bit of a low-key end to the side, this one. I'm going to give this one 3 out of 10. below average. Let's have a look at that first side. We end up with 24 marks for side 1, which is a bit on the low side, and obviously Breaking Hearts is the standout track there. So we move on now to side 2 and this piece of music. Now this is of course Passengers, which reached number 5 in the UK chart. It's based on a South African folk tune by Phineas Mkhize, who gets a credit on the album, and apparently was Elton's response to criticism of his appearances in South Africa. Now, Paul Simon did something similar and produced the landmark album Graceland. But of course, we can't really compare the two there. Graceland was a legendary album, very creative. This, to me, is rather a trite and disappointing song. The lyrics apparently contain an anti-apartheid message to do with whether people would be able to get to their homeland and a job, and whether they want to become passengers on this mythical, metaphorical journey or whatever. To me, the whole thing is a huge mistake. This is a really horrible track, I think. Starting with that Ice Cream Van tune, the whole setting is horrible. The lyrics are rather meaningless. The call and response is irritating. The vocal is horrid, and I just think the whole thing was a complete error in judgment. I listened to a podcast episode, I guess that's what they call the blues podcast, which gives a lot of really interesting background on where this song came from and how it was used. Obviously, you can use your own judgment on this. You may even like this song, but for me, it was a big mistake, and I just think it's a horrible track, actually, and I'm a big Elton fan. So on this, I'm afraid this one is going to score 0 out of 10, and we're going to move on. Now, what we have now is a run of some really good quality tracks, and number 7 is a track called In Neon. So listening to this album again for this review, I've really been pleased to rediscover some of these tracks. In Neon is about broken dreams. A woman leaves home to search for her fortune. Perhaps she wants to be a movie star. Now, this song to me reminds me of Roy Rogers from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Not just me, actually, because Elizabeth Rosenthal in her book, she mentioned the same thing. So there is that feel to it. There's a mandolin at the start. The verse builds up really well. It tells a good story. And then the refrain is absolutely glorious. It's a wonderfully written refrain, one of Elton's best, I think. The background vocals work well. There's a good hook in this. Perhaps those repetitions of In Neon at the end of the refrain are a little bit out of place, I don't know. But she hates how she feels, but she hangs like a mirror. A really good lyric here as well from Bernie. There's some acoustic piano on this. That gets a thumbs up. And for me, this is a really good quality track, and I'd quite happily listen to this one again. So I'm going to give this an excellent. It's going to get 8 out of 10. Track number 8 is Burning Buildings. This is an extended metaphor about a relationship being like a burning building. You've got to get out of it as soon as possible. There's a great start to this track, which sounds a little bit like Breaking Hearts to start with, just Elton and on his own with the piano. A little bit like something from Blue Moves in a way, that sort of feeling to it. Then the band join in. There's a strong refrain, quite difficult to sing, but it does stick in the memory. A really good passionate vocal from Elton, and pleasant acoustic guitar break in it. Some good lyrics from Bernie. Okay, maybe this one won't go down in the annals of history as one of the greatest songs, but I think it's a really good listen, this one. Lovers leap off burning buildings, waking go on a sky-high wire. Lots to think about there. I'm going to give this one, rate it up here as a very good track, 7 out of 10. Track 9 is Did He Shoot Her? This has a rhythmic, exciting start, and we can hear a sitar there, which of course reminds us of Blues for Baby and Me, a wonderful track from Don't Shoot Me. Is it a real sitar? I hope so, and I hope it's not a synthetic sitar. This is a jaunty song. It's got a thrilling refrain. It's a fine pop song, this one. It's about an ex-boyfriend getting his revenge. And the shooting is, of course, a metaphor here. So again, we get the male point of view, maybe a little bit too much on this album, I don't know. Did he shoot that girl that used to be mine? Is he talking about shooting or is he talking about filming? That might be a double meaning on there. There's an okay guitar solo on there. The refrain has these luscious descending chords through it. It works really well. So look at this, 3 quality songs in a row here, and this one is going to get very good from me. So well done, Elton, on that. So the closing track, Sad Songs brackets Say So Much. Now I can remember this song coming out because it came out at just about the same time that Watford were in the FA Cup football final in the UK. And of course, Elton was the chairman at the time. And I remember on the day of the match, they were playing this video on the sports programmes of this song which had just come out. It reached number 7 in the UK chart and number 5 in the US chart. It's about listening to old-time radio blues classics, and they help us feel better when we're in a slightly emotional state. The video was shot on the streets of Sydney, interestingly. Now, apparently, Elton was in a really angry mood, and he was presented with these lyrics. And he sat down at the piano, and he wrote this tune in just 5 minutes. And somebody then came in, it may have been Bernie, and said, they listened to the song, and he said, that's going to be a worldwide hit. And of course, it was. There's a rolling piano at the start. It sounds a little bit tinny, but it's quite pleasant, and it suits this track. Everybody can identify with the message of this song. It's a simple melody, but it works. It's really effective. You can hum this song, and it's memorable. And this is a joyous tribute to melancholy music. That's from Elizabeth Rosenthal's book. And of course, this works really well as a live track. Some of you have selected this for your fantasy final farewell Elton concert. Well, I'm with you on this one. I think it's a very good track indeed. I'm going to give this one 8 out of 10 as an excellent track. So the end of side 2. And what did we have on side 2? We had a 0, but then an 8, 7, 7, 8, giving us 30 marks for the second side. And I'm really pleased I listened to this again because I think those 4 tracks together work really well together. The total for the album gives us 54 points. With 10 tracks, that's 5.4 marks per track. And we'll see how that stacks up against the other Elton albums I've reviewed. Now, just a word about some of the B-sides. I'm going to do a separate video on these because I don't want this one to be too long. And also, I haven't listened to them all yet, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tracks to listen to and review that were B-sides or almost made it to this album, including one called Tactics. I'm really interested to work out how you can have a song called Tactics and to make that work. So I'm going to listen to that one and review it separately. Okay, let's have a look at the league table. So let's have a look at my league table of Elton John songs so far with 18 albums now reviewed. Right over the top there, of course, we still have Skyline Pigeon and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and some really good 9s. But in the 8s here, we've got a solid block of tracks from Breaking Hearts. The title track, In Neon, and Sad Songs, all getting 8 out of 10 there. So some great songs in those 8s there. And we have a new entry right at the bottom of the chart there, along with Solar Prestige Agamon, both of those and Passengers getting 0 marks out of 10. Sorry about that, but I think they're real stinkers. So let's see how this album fits in to my album rankings. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road there, still on top. I can't really see that being beaten. But there's Breaking Hearts there with 5.4 per track. On the same level, really, with Captain Fantastic. Now, I know some people really like that album. Not one of my favourites, but we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one. But it's a much better album than I thought it would be, actually, Breaking Hearts. I thought it might be down there with Jump Up and Too Low for Zero. But actually, when you listen to it in detail, it's a pretty good album. There's 4 or 5 really decent tracks on Breaking Hearts. And now let's just have a look at my song rankings in order. So I've put the 9s in order here, I've put the 8s in order. And what we see is some new entries coming in here from the Breaking Hearts album. There, for instance, is the title track, Breaking Hearts, which I've put in at number 38 so far. In Neon coming in at 42, and Sad Songs on 47. So I've now got 48 tracks that are ranked 8 or above. So I'm trying to sort them out as we go through. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this review. As always, feel free to disagree. Which is your favourite track on this album? And how do you rate this album compared with Elton's other albums? So look out for my next video, which will be on the B-sides linked to this one. And the other series I've also started, which is Elton's Hidden Gems. I'm looking for those tracks which perhaps have gone under the radar, but are still quality tracks from Elton. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Subscribe if you feel you want to. And I'll see you next time. Don't forget, we're still standing.